Jay, can you move closer? I know that's your side and everything, but I can't speak over there.
Come on.
Yeah, just a few of you come around. Well, then see, Danelle has the cameras.
You can carry your.
I won't force you. I won't force you.
Your voice carries right quite nicely.
That corner's sticking where they are. Okay.
Oh, Mr. President is moving.
Yeah, I don't know if they expected another people the morning of after Yom Kippur. Chapter 5.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Join me. Come sit in this corner here. Make this the corner.
I'll give you a little breathing room.
Thank you. Thank you.
President moving up.
There you go. Welcome, everybody. How was your Yom Kippur?
Way too much.
It's a lot, eh?
Oh my God. But that's expected every year from my sister-in-law.
Hey, the pile's coming around. We're on chapter 5. So for those of you joining us in the video, we're in Lessons in Tanya, this edition with sort of the beige fabric cover. And we're starting on chapter 5, which is page 91. No, unfortunately.
You want your R, because like on the second page, there's chapter 9.
Oh, you do. Yeah.
Before you came in, we had a question brought up.
Yeah.
When you light yard side candles,
Yes.
do you light one? Do you light one for each individual that you sit in cottage for?
I believe it's one for every individual.
Is that what you do?
On the yard site, you have two beloved who are on the same yard site?
But what about like
No, we're talking about Yom Kippur.
Oh, that I don't know. I'd have to check. I assume you meant on the date of the yard
No,
site.
on the yard site, I understand, but on Yom
Yeah.
Kippur, when you do light 9 candles? Or do you
Right.
light
You got me at a disadvantage. Fortunately, thank God, all my immediate family are living, so I don't have a practice right now, and I don't know.
Good.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
We just finished Yom Kippur, and Sukkot is coming up. There's so much I'd like to share, but let me just try and narrow it down to this. We are just learning about mitzvot, not as commandments, but as from Tzavta connections, and in fact as part of the structure of our soul. This is a user's guide for the soul. And so the first 8 chapters we're learning about the structure of this device, this soul that's flowing through this body. And we learned that the soul actually has 613 organs, as it were, which correspond to 613 limbs of the Ein Sof. Hey, how are you? And we need a chapter 5 for my friend. Thanks, Devorah.
Yeah.
If you have to leave, just understand. Okay, good. Glad to have you. And so our soul has these 613 organs that are part and parcel of its structure. And also, the Ein Sof, it emits every frequency, any light that comes out of the Ein Sof also has that structure, 613 organs of the Ein Sof. Kind of like we're a radio station, or we're a radio receiver, one of those old, what do you call them, transistor radios with 613 channels. And there's a tower that's broadcasting radio waves, and if my eyes could see those radio waves, I'd just see a big light, just one big light coming from this tower, very bright. But with my radio, I can tune into one or the other, and then I get actual information on that channel. In that light is 613 channels, and we can tune into each one with our soul. And it's as much a structure of our soul as that dial was a structure of those old transistor radios. You can move to 100, you can move to 113, you move to channel this, channel that, and you actually, there's someone talking to you on each channel. There's a real person doing music, information, whatever, on each channel. Same thing with our souls. How does that connect to Sukkot? Oh, Sukkot. Sukkot has an amazing mitzvah that is so easy and that is all-encompassing. So this is a great time to be experimenting with what we say at our Tanya slide, where perhaps I used to look at a mitzvah as you have to do this, this is your obligation. Instead, we're going to say this is a way to connect the 613 organs of my soul with the 613 limbs of the Ein Sof. And that general mitzvah is, of course, dwelling in the sukkah. Yes. Yeah. So when you're in a sukkah, it actually doesn't matter what you're doing at that point. I can be playing cards with my friends, and it's a mitzvah. Right? I could be tying my shoelace, and it's a mitzvah. That's the thing. There's only two mitzvahs that actually incorporate your entire being, every part of you, and then automatically, no matter what. Right? One of them is the mikvah, and that's a little more maybe outside of our frame of reference. But the first one is the sukkah. When you're in a sukkah, everything is involved in the mitzvah. Your whole body, your clothes, anything you're doing. If you're just reading even a romance novel in the sukkah, it's all a mitzvah, every part of it. So it's an amazing time. As we come towards Sukkot, whatever tradition you have, whether you have a sukkah in your house, or you come to temple sukkah, which is also a beautiful kosher sukkah, or you visit someone's home and have a meal, know that you're not just doing something that's an amazing tradition and that's a commandment. You're also having one of the organs of your soul, and an all-encompassing one, being clothed, or rather enclothed, the organs of the Ein Sof. Yeah? So it's a beautiful time of the year for us to be delving into this aspect of how we use our soul more effectively. Yeah?
Back in time, because 50 plus years, I've never eaten in a sukkah, I've been invited to a sukkah, I've seen our temple one,
Yeah.
but were they built to be slept in also?
Yeah, most traditions do live in the sukkah, meaning sleep in, although some communities actually consider sleeping in the sukkah a lower order activity, and they actually sleep in the house and have meals and live in the day in the sukkah. But yeah, that's it.
More like the Orthodox, do they kind of more of, is it more of like, if they sleep and eat, or is it just?
I believe also in the Orthodox community there's many communities that sleep, but also some in the Orthodox community that spiritually say sleeping is something that should be done not in the sukkah because it's such an exalted spiritual environment.
I've never, like, eaten in one, I've never, really.
Yeah, well, I think there's many opportunities at temple. So just for starters, we have we have a sukkah here, and you feel free to come and enjoy that. And let's talk after about other opportunities. Okay, so let's review where we're at very quickly. Chapter 1, we looked at that there are 3 types of people, essentially, 5 total categories, but 3 main types: a Rasha, Tzaddik, and a Beinoni. That is a self-centered person, a completely other-centered person, and then this intermediate person. And then we also learned that we have 2 souls that we're dealing with in a lifetime. One which is, and we learned about that first, the self-centered soul, the nefesh bamit, the animal soul. Then in chapter 2 I started to learn about the nefesh elokit, the godly soul, or the other-centered soul. And we learned that is an actual part of God. It's an actual part of God that God, as it were, blows into us, or blew into us. And also that it stems from, for those of you who have learned some of the Kabbalah, it stems from Chokhmah of Ein Sof, or at least Chokhmah of Atzilus, depending on how you're framing it. So the very, very highest aspect of the whole tree of life, of the whole kabbalistic network, that's where our soul stems from. And because the Ein Sof's Chokhmah can never be divided from the Ein Sof, it still is Ein Sof down here. And it still is a piece of the Ein Sof down here. Right? It comes from the highest point, and we each have that within us. Then chapter 3, we start to learn about the aspects of the divine soul which correspond to the tree of life. That's the 10 sfirot, cosmically. But within us, there are 10 attributes, 3 intellectual, and then 7 emotional and behavioral. And we said the take-home was, which one are the parents of which? Anybody? Who are the parents and who are the kids in this?
Intellectuals are the parents.
Right, intellectual attributes of the parents. Yeah, exactly. and they come down and they say inspire emotional reactions in our emotional attributes. And that is very important for when we get to the applied sections, chapter 9 going forward, that it's always based on the reality that the intellectual aspects are actually the parents of the emotional aspects and guide them. Right, then chapter 4, learn about the 3 garments. Chapter 4, thank you. Is there chapter 4? Oh, we're starting chapter 5 now, yeah. Thank you. Good, thank you. Chapter 4, we learned about the 3 garments, which are, thank you, thought, speech, and action. Very good. And unlike the attributes, very good. Unlike the attributes, they are not who we are, they're what we do. And so we can always take one off and put another one on. They're more superficial. Even thought, we said, is actually something we can learn to, if not stop, redirect to something that is productive. And that's also very key, is that thought is a behavior from the kabbalistic point of view. Intellect, the capacity to think, that is who I am, but what I'm currently thinking, that's a behavior, and I can actually change it like any behavior. Another piece we learned, although the garments are external to us, they actually elevate our soul above its source, at least where the divine soul is concerned. Because the garments of the divine soul are, as we said, thought, speech, and action that's related to our tradition, to Torah. And again, that Torah, as we learned, is divine thought, and divine thought, it's not like our thought. It doesn't get separated. You can't write it down on paper and then mail it to your friend, and now it's a letter, it's not me. Divine thought is never separable from the Ein Sof. So when our soul is expressing a garment where it's talking about Torah as we are today, or doing a mitzvah as we will be when we're in a sukkah, although to us it seems like this is an external part of my soul, it's a garment, I'm actually encountering the Ein Sof itself, and it's elevating my soul above even the source of my soul. Completely turns on its head everything that our physical senses are projecting to us. And finally, also, we learned about the 613 garments, organs of the soul, which are the mitzvot. So Kabbalah sees the mitzvot very differently, not a bunch of rules that were developed over history. In fact, it sees it as the inner structure of the light that's coming from the Ein Sof. It's contained within it, and it corresponds to the structure of our soul, and they match together for us to connect with the Ein Sof. I want to share one piece just on that from Steinsaltz, page 139. That was very nice. This is talking about how it is that, in fact, the physical things that we encounter are the most profound way for our soul to encounter the Ein Sof. Right? You'd think that a soul in heaven would have a better view of the Ein Sof, be closer to the Ein Sof. A soul in heaven sees the light of the Ein Sof, but the Ein Sof is also hidden there, just as much as here. But we said that Torah, as compared to water, it flows down, and the water that finds the lowest point is the same as the water from its source at the highest point. No change whatsoever. Right? The rain that's falling beautifully outside, if I go and I find a nice clean ditch and I scoop up some fresh water, you know, a child may say, no, I want the raindrops that are falling from the sky, I want that water. It's like, this is that water. It's the same exact water. Down here, it's the same as it is up there. And that's how Ratzon of the Ein Sof works, divine will. When it flows down here, although it condenses itself into material objects, we can actually interact with it, it still is the exact same water. And when you pick up that etrog and lulav and shake it, or wave it, you are actually picking up the same water that is above what the soul can access. It's the essence of the Ein Sof.
Does it have some effect on the water when it's down here?
Yeah, I'll give you that. The metaphor breaks down in a puddle. It may add things to it, but I could still, I could still strain that out, and the water itself is still the same as the rainwater. Yes, but that's my metaphor. So the author's answer is that these things, however lowly and material, are indeed the will and wisdom of God. They are not a reflection of his will, but are his will itself, translated into the language of the material. The Torah itself does not undergo change. Rather, it descends by hidden steps from level to level, assuming at each level the garments that relate to that plane of reality. Within these garments, however, is the Torah itself, which is one with God, and remains God's unadulterated will and wisdom at every level. One can say that the Torah undergoes a series of translations: a translation into the language of the seraphim, which are higher angels, a translation into the language of the angels, a translation into the language of the soul that resides in the physical body, languages that are merely garments for the essence of Torah, which remains unchanged at all levels. And that's Steinsaltz.
Is he saying that all objects are equal in the Ein Sof? The Torah and the world as well?
What I'm getting out of it is less that all objects are equal. It's that even though some physical objects seem like they're the same as other physical objects, they actually are the essence of the Ein Sof, right? So,
if they're all the essence of the Ein Sof.
well, not all. No, my lulav, once I take it and bundle it up and use it for a lulav, is now the essence of the Ein Sof. But a palm branch that's sitting on a tree somewhere is just a plant, right? So until we take it and use it as a mitzvah, it doesn't become a channel, as it were, for this pathway, right? So I hear it as the opposite, right? There's some unique physical objects that when we take them and use them in our tradition, now the Ein Sof is appearing right through them. They're transparent. The Ein Sof is right there, even though it looks like just a physical branch. But all the other branches sitting in my yard, those are just neutral physical stuff. I could use them for mitzvah or not.
On a different vein of the same question, with the translations at the different levels, does that lead into the fact that when the Mashiach comes, we'll have, it's not a new Torah, but a deeper understanding of Torah?
Yeah, that's another topic, another level, but it keeps going, and there is a sense of a tipping point in history when what is very esoteric to us becomes obvious. So I'll look at my lulav and I won't see a physical branch and physical fruit. Mainly, I'll see godliness, and I'll be like, oh yeah, there's also something physical here, but really I'm seeing godliness. It'll be more apparent, right? But if, from my perspective, that clearly hasn't happened. I'm looking at a branch. It's my work now to put in my Tanya slide and say, no, I'm going to experience this as a channel to connect with godliness, with my soul itself.
Right, that we're human physical things, and we need to appreciate these physical things where the spirits don't.
Yeah, they can't. No, they don't have access to them. And it's like we said, a soul waits maybe 1,000 more years to come down here and experience what we're all doing here, right? So even though for us, we don't see the beautiful spiritual light, this is the moment we've been waiting for. It's kind of like, just to wrap up chapter 4, sometimes people look at Jewish pathways and they think, I want to have an elevated spiritual experience. I want to experience these higher planes. I want to reach the level of Bria or Yetzirah. And why aren't I having a spiritual experience? I'm just going out and I'm building a sukkah and it's a drag and it takes time. I'm in the rain and I hit my thumb with the hammer, right? Where's my spiritual experience? I compare it to when you're giving a gift to your grandkids, perhaps, right? If you've ever had that experience, I haven't, but I'm hoping many have, of thinking about the perfect gift for your grandkids. Did I say parents or kids? When you're giving a gift to your grandkids, yeah. You go out and you find the exact perfect thing that, your kids are going to like it, the grandkids are going to love it, something that you'll be able to spend time with them, something that'll educate them. You find the perfect thing they're going to love, and you go and you sweat and you buy, you spend money on it, you put all this time, and that's boring, right? I mean, who likes doing that? Shopping for kids' toys? I'm not interested in that. But you do it, right? And wherever you have to go, you find it, you schlep, no, this model's not available. Now you go to this store and you get on Amazon, it gets delivered to the wrong address, and finally you get the thing. Okay, you're Americans, I get it. I am too, but not that part. I don't get that part. But then finally the time comes where you're at that event and the grandkids open up the package and you see, oh, they know how much you love them, they know how much you know them, this is exactly what they wanted, your kids are happy, it's the right toy, and they come and they give you a big hug. Let me ask you a question. At that moment, when your grandkid gives you that big hug, and everybody's just so happy, you know there's going to be time spent with them that's well spent, do you need a more spiritual experience? Is there any party that says, hold on, how come I'm not seeing my child's soul visibly? How come I'm not leaping up to Bria and seeing the results and the unification? I want to have a more spiritual experience. Where's my spiritual experience? There's no party that's saying that, is there? Why is that? Because the essence of this is actually, it's not about my experience, it's about their experience. Right? When I make my grandchildren happy, that's Nefesh Elokit expressing. That's my other-centered soul expressing. When I want to have a spiritual experience, who wants to have that experience? And why? Is it Nefesh Elokit? Am I doing it for someone else? Am I doing it because I want to feel spiritual? I want to see that stuff. I want to consider myself a mature spiritual person. So we want to be nuanced about what we're aiming at, right? When you give that gift to your grandkids, you're expressing Nefesh Elokit in the most beautiful way, and that moment of oneness between you and them and your family, that's what stands out in a whole lifetime. That's the meaning that we're here for. And now we're doing the same thing with the mitzvahs. We can do it with our grandkids, and we can do it with the Ein Sof too. Because when I come to Temple Israel and I say the Shema, or when I put a coin in a charity box, my soul has waited 1,000 years, and I've traveled the whole lifetime. I've gathered that physical stuff, and then I've gone and I've made the pain in the behind effort to do it, and I've connected the Ein Sof to the will of the Ein Sof, and now I'm causing tremendous pleasure to the Ein Sof. And the masters of the tradition say that that's not enough. At that moment, when you're being embraced by the Ein Sof, when you're causing great joy to the essence of the Ein Sof, and you're encountering it face to face, and you're getting a hug, you want to have a spiritual experience? You want to leave this moment and go somewhere else? This is where it's happening, down in the physical. Yeah?
So, I mean, other religions say that it's the hereafter that is what you're doing all this for. I mean, what we're saying now is, no, we're doing this for here and now, and that's reaching God, that's being one with God.
Exactly. As we said, it turns our tradition on its head.
Right.
For many generations and in many communities, we saw this life as just a precursor to the world to come or to heaven. And we had to, work and sweat and suffer in this life so that we had a reward in the world to come. And it was just delayed gratification, perhaps. The Alter Rebbe comes and says, no, it's all here. Right? Yeah, your soul will see it later. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's going to be great and pleasurable. But if that's why you're doing it, that's just the spiritual aspects of Nefesh Ba'amit. Nefesh Elokit wants to be here, wants to be doing these mitzvahs, because these mitzvahs reveal to us and connect us with the essence of the Ein Sof, not just the light of the Ein Sof. So it's all here. And this was a revolution in Jewish spiritual teaching.
I hear you say that there's only one true translation of the Torah.
Did I say that?
I
Oh.
thought you said
Oh, in this
something-
quote. When he says translation, he doesn't mean literally into other languages. He means translation from divine light into lower order transmissions that we can actually absorb and comprehend, which become Hebrew literal meanings in our mind and become physical objects.
Well, in Noreen's class, I hear her reciting the translations of different rabbis,
Yeah.
which are not necessarily parallel.
No, the question is, I'm sorry, I forgot to run over questions. Our question here was, are all physical objects the same by this quote? And then we talked about that some are used for mitzvah, some not. Another question was, we forgot the question, sorry. I was teaching one here. Good. And then finally a question about translations. Why are there many translations? And really Torah ideally should be studied just in Hebrew, because it's impossible to translate Hebrew into any other language, and that's why when you try, you get sometimes opposite meanings, because the words, they have multiple connections that are not translatable into other languages. All right, chapter 5. So this is the last chapter where we're dealing with the divine soul. After that, we'll spend 6 through 8 learning about the animal soul. I'll try and go through those a little faster because I won't lie to you, they're a little depressing to me, but we'll get through them. And then we get into the applied stuff where we start learning the techniques. And in this chapter, we're going a little deeper into this idea that Torah mitzvahs are connecting tools embedded within our soul to connect with the Ein Sof, and we're zooming in on Torah study. And Torah study has a unique quality in that while we speak the Torah and we roll a physical Torah and it has a physical aspect, so it is a mitzvah, like the other mitzvot, it has that aspect that the essence of the Ein Sof is there in our physical speech and in the Torah scroll itself. But it has an additional aspect in that, unlike the other mitzvot, I can actually wrap my mind around a Torah concept and digest it. Right? So I can take it, and like a beautiful meal, I can eat it, I can taste it, I can absorb it, and it can become me. And that's a unity that in many ways goes beyond the unity we experience with a physical mitzvah. And also it contains both. So it's like a physical mitzvah, but also has this unique characteristic. So let's look where he goes. We're on page 91. ולתוספת ביאור באר היטב לשון תפיסה שאמר אליהו לית מחשבה תפיסה וח. Oh, chapter 5, page 91, first page.
Just at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And by the way, let's put a new just class tradition. Some people, I've gotten some feedback that some people are not so comfortable reading because their voices are not loud enough, perhaps, to get to the camera or any other reason. So for any reason, if you don't feel like reading, just say pass. Let's have that be a class tradition for everybody. He's like, pass. No, that's not what I mean. So it's out there, okay, for anyone who needs it. ולתוספת ביאור באר. Now I'm feeling bad because it's Yom Kippur, so that wasn't actually one of the actual reasons of their voice being loud enough for the camera. It was a fictional reason that I put out there. I apologize for not being completely truthful. Will you accept my apology? Thank you. ולתוספת ביאור באר היטב לשון תפיסה שאמר אליהו לית מחשבה תפיסה וכו'.
Further explanation to more further elucidate the expression tefisa, grasp. In the words of Elijah, no thought can grasp you.
Right. So when he talked about, hold on, what are we saying? That we can grasp the Ein Sof with the organs of our soul? I thought no thought can grasp you. So he's going to go into that, particularly the relationship of us and the Ein Sof when we're learning Torah, of how it is that we can grasp the Ein Sof itself when that should be completely beyond us. And the word was used was tfisa, to grasp. As explained.
As explained in chapter 4, we cannot ordinarily grasp God with our intellect, but only through Torah study. Realizing our inability to comprehend godliness will thus explain how we do grasp Him through Torah.
Right, so part and parcel of understanding how Torah is a channel for us to grasp and even ingest the Ein Sof, we do have to understand that we're not literally understanding with our physical brain God's thought. Right? So that's not happening. You're not going to reach up and become beyond a human, beyond a created being, and understand God's thought as it exists in the world of Atzilus or above in Adam Kadmon and all these worlds. We're talking about still being a normal human and learning normal Torah, learning what an ox gores somebody, what happens, learning physical laws. That's what we're talking about. הנה כל שכל, כשמשכיל משיג בשכלו איזה מושכל, הרי השכל תופס את המושכל ומקיפו בשכלו.
Therefore, when one knows and comprehends this verdict as halakha, set forth in the Mishnah or Gemara or Poskim.
I think you may have skipped a page there. So we're on top of 92, on the other side of the page. What? Oh no!
That was my next page.
Oh no! That's a whole disaster.
Guess you're gonna have to read those. You can't say pass.
All right, we're going to pass around the Steinsaltz then, okay? Chapter 5. Yeah, I realized. Okay, so let's go based on this. So here, when it's a little bit different. When a mind grasps and conceives, we're at this paragraph here. It's the bold in this, if you can manage it. It's the second paragraph says when a mind perceives.
To further explain and fully elucidate the term tefisa, apprehension, in the words of Elijah, no thought can apprehend.
That's what I wrote.
Ryan just read that.
That's what you
Yeah,
just
so it's
pointed
gonna be here. So
to.
here, when you pass it on, show the person where you finished, and they'll go on. We'll see if we can do this. If not, I'll just read it. When in mind,
Okay.
just the bold.
Okay. When a mind
It's not you.
when a mind conceives and comprehends a concept with its intellect, this mind grasps the concept and encloses it with its intellect, and the concept is grasped, enclosed, and enclosed within the mind that conceived and comprehended it.
Yes, so this is normal stuff, right? I know it sounds, you could pass it to the right. It's normal stuff. When I'm learning whatever, trigonometry, at first I see all these crazy stuff on the page, and I'm trying to grasp it, and first I hit it as a point, I get the idea, and eventually I bring it to my mind until my mind is actually encompassing and grasping that subject, right? So I'm thinking about trigonometry. Now it's within me, it's in my mind. I have several ideas, I have the models, I get used to it, and finally it's in my mind. This is a normal intellectual learning process we're describing. Everybody follow? Go ahead. Oh yeah, yeah. V'gam. This is not going to work. וגם השכל מלובש במושכל בשעה שמשיגו ותופסו בשכלו.
In addition, the mind is also enclosed within the concept at the time that it comprehends and grasps it with its intellect.
Till there, good. Right, so there's two things happening. On the one hand, I'm absorbing, say, trigonometry, and I get these models, I'm struggling, and I'm trying to make connections, and it's in my mind. On the other hand, while I'm doing this, have you had this experience? When I'm learning something new, my mind wanders into the environment of that subject, and it is encompassing me. And I'm kind of lost, I'm trying to find my way. There's this room, and I try to turn the lights on, I can't find the switch, and it's all around me. I'm not thinking of anything else, right? My mind is lost within that subject. That subject is also encompassing me. So you're getting a twofold meeting happening. On the one hand, the subject, trigonometry, and it's now within my mind, and I'm grasping it. On the other hand, as a wider subject, my mind is entered into that subject, and it is grasping me. Right? So it's within me, and it's also encompassing me. דרך משל, כשאדם מבין ומשיג איזו הלכה במשנה בגמרא לשורה על בוריה. For example,
if a person understands and comprehends truly and fully any halakha in the Mishnah or Gemara, his mind grasps and encloses it, and at the same time, it is also enclosed within it. Now, this particular halakha is the wisdom and the will of God, for it was His will that when, for example, Reuben pleads in one way and Simone in another, the verdict is, as between them shall be thus and thus.
till there, good. Let me give you the Hebrew. הרי שכלו תופס ומקיף אותה, וגם שכלו מלובש בו באותה שעה. והנה ההלכה הזו היא חוכמתו ורצונו של הקדוש ברוך הוא, שעלה ברצונו שכשיטעון ראובן כך וכך דרך משל, שמעון כך וכך יהיה הפסק ביניהם כך וכך. Right, so now we're talking about not trigonometry, we're talking about halakha. We're talking about Jewish law here. And it applies to any field of Torah, whether it's midrash stories, whether it's this, Kabbalah and Hasidus, whether it's pure legal texts. Kabbalah says we're not learning what another subject would correspond to. We're learning Torah, which, as we said, is still Chokhmah Vein Sof. It's still the very first sphera of the highest world, and the whole universe came out of it by Kabbalah. Yeah, so very, very new frame. And so when I'm learning that Reuven and Shimon had an argument, and if such and such happens, the halakha says this, I'm not actually learning it in order to become a judge and mediate legal disputes in Judaism. Right? All these Jews that learn Torah for hours and hours a day, normal, ordinary Jews who work here or work there, or have some other profession, they're not lawyers, and they have no interest in ever disputing a legal case. They're not learning it in order to master law practically. And you don't see that in any other form of law. People don't sit down and learn law as a hobby. right? They don't learn law for pleasure. It's a horrible thing to have to go through jurisprudence. I'm sure it's very dry. And people who learn law, maybe there's a few exceptions in the room, but generally, people don't sit and learn law for pleasure or for pure self-improvement. They learn law because they are a judge or a lawyer, they were or are involved in the legal community, and in some way it applies. But when we learn a halakha, Kabbalah says you're not learning it in order to ever apply this. In fact, sometimes there's legal cases that the Torah discusses in depth that are impossible. They could never happen. No possible way that scenario would ever occur. And yet, we want to learn it because for us, we're encountering the chokhmah of the Ein Sof. We're saying, before there was a world, what did God's infinite mind think of? Right? Before there was any creation, God in one flash saw every possible being, every possible scenario, every possible world, every possible frame of reference, all at once. We can't conceive of what true infinity means when it's now compressed into a spark of chokhmah, whatever that means. It's all there, every potential, the real and the not real, the possible and the impossible, right? The rational and the irrational, all in that one spark. So when we learn some legal teaching from the Torah, from this perspective, it makes no difference whether it could ever be applied or whether I'm involved in actually enforcing Jewish legal jurisprudence. I'm learning it because I want to see God's perspective. Because when I ingest that, I'm taking Chokhmah of the Ein Sof, and I am now bringing it into my own mind. I'm digesting it. I'm encompassing it. And it's encompassing me. ואף אם לא היה ולא יהיה הדבר הזה לעולם לבוא למשפט על טענות וטבעות אלו.
We didn't get to read the English from your last.
No, that was it. We jumped ahead. We'll probably do some back and forth. Because even if it never did.
And even if such a litigation
Yeah.
never was and never will present itself for judgment in connection with such disputes and claims, nevertheless, since it has been the will and wisdom of the Holy One, blessed be He, that in the event of one person pleading this way and the other person that way, the verdict shall be such and such, it follows that when a person knows and comprehends with his mind such a verdict in accordance with the law, as it is set out in the Mishnah, Gemara, or the codes, he has thus comprehended, grasped, and closed in his mind the will and wisdom of the Holy One, blessed be He.
Good. Now we're actually to a page you have, right? Where you guys have 94? Oh, okay. So we'll go back to our. There we go. Yeah. So look at your top of your page 2, and we'll correct that for next class, God willing.
No, we're not there yet.
Oh, goody. Okay. Okay, so מכל מקום מאחד שכך עלה ברצונו וחוכמתו של הקדוש ברוך הוא, שאם יטעון זה כך וזה כך יהיה הפסק כך, הרי כשאדם יודע ומשיג בשכלו פסק זה כהלכה הערוכה במשנה או גמרא או פוסקים. Yeah, that's what you just read, because the English there is bigger chunks, that's all. Yeah, so for anyone watching the video, we're now at the top of page 94. I know today is a little more confusing, my fault. Yes, but so this is this idea. We think we're learning law, right? If an ox gores, if Reuven and Shimon have an argument, or Reuven says, I didn't lend him this money, I didn't lend her this money, right? Now what should be the decision? And we think this is just practical laws where the Torah says, this is how you should run society, this is the best way. Here comes Kabbalah and the Alter Rebbe and says, no, nothing to do with that. Yeah, okay, if you happen to be a rabbi and you happen to be, head of a community and they come to you for decisions, you should know this, because that's what you have to do in the physical world. But here we're talking about learning Torah in order to connect with the Ein Sof. And the Ein Sof, the intellect of the Ein Sof, is before there was a world. It makes no difference what happens in the world, whether it's possible or impossible. Anything that we learn that comes down that is in our tradition from the Torah, the Kabbalah says, now you're actually taking Ein Sof, and you're not just encountering it as a garment to the soul, an external garment. You're taking it and you're bringing it in. And to get back to our main metaphors, we talked about the 3 garments of the soul of Nefesh Elokit being garments that allow us to encounter the will of the Ein Sof, as in when I shake a lulav, my garment of action is actually, as it were, being embraced by Ein Sof. Here, it's not my garment, right? Here it's actually my food. A garment is something that's external to the body, that we put on and take off at will, but it doesn't affect us permanently. Whereas food is something that we ingest more internally and actually affects us permanently, right? Like, what's the difference between garments and food? If I was wearing a suit of armor an hour ago, would any of you know?
No.
If I was wearing a tuxedo, would any of you know? You have no way of knowing, right? What I was wearing an hour ago, you have no way of knowing. But if I said to my friend, you know, my wife was the best cook, and it was just the holidays, and every night I came and there was a beautiful meal, and we had tofu this, and we had seitan that, and we had organic this, and I ate, and it was amazing, I loved it, such good holidays. My friend would say, yeah, I can see, right? I say, what do you mean you can see? The food's not here. I said, well, the food's not here, but I can see. I mean, you've gained a few pounds, it's on you, right? I can see. So food, when we eat it, it actually remains in us, and it becomes us. Same thing with the Torah here. A mitzvah, when you do it, great, you've put on that garment, you've created light, you've encountered the essence of the Ein Sof, as we're saying. But now when it's gone, it's not there anymore, right? I mean, perhaps in the world to come, your soul will experience the light of that, and it's there for you as a reward, great. But right now, in my life now, what's the next mitzvah, right? I got to look for the next productive thing to do. When it comes to Torah, any concept that I take in and truly ingest, it's with me because it changes now how I see everything else that I learn. Right? When I learn something in Torah, if it's a profound concept, it now changes the way I learn everything else. Right? When we say Torah is Chokhmah of the Ein Sof, and therefore when we learn Torah we're connecting to the Ein Sof, now anytime I open up any dry Torah text, I'm hugging my grandkids again, right? I'm there encountering the essence of the Ein Sof. It's changed how I learn everything. So that's why in many ways Torah is compared to food of the soul or bread of the soul, whereas mitzvahs are the garments of the soul. Okay, so on my page 2 of the handout here, we're at 94 on the top, on the left, so we'll go from he then actually. Hare ze masig v'tofes u'makif b'sichlo ritzono v'chokhmato shel kadosh baruch hu deleit machashavat tfisa be v'lo b'ritzono v'chokhmato. He then actually comprehends.
Then actually comprehends and grasps the will and wisdom of God, whom no thought can grasp, nor can any thought grasp his will and wisdom.
Right, so we see that we encompass it in our minds. It encompasses us. We grasp it and it grasps us. And it's actually the will and wisdom of God, even though, as it was in heaven, as it was before it came down, that we can't have access to. But we can't come here into a body and learn with a physical brain and speak with a physical mouth. And it's the same water here. We can actually grasp it because it's come down to enclose itself in physical ideas. Ki'im behitlabshutam b'halachot haruchot lefanenu.
Except when they, God's will and wisdom, clothe himself in the halakha set before us. This is the one facet of understanding Torah, namely that there hereby one's intellect encompasses the divine will and wisdom. Therefore.
Right, so that's the first. That's me taking Torah, taking Chokhmah of the Ein Sof, and grasping it with my mind. I'm learning about physical stuff. I'm learning about domains and about barriers on top of roofs. I'm learning about physical stuff that my brain can grasp. But the trick is, Kabbalah says the Ein Sof is right there, the essence of the Ein Sof. And we're grasping it with our intellect. V'gam sichlo milubash bahem.
His intellect is also clothed in them, within the divine will and wisdom contained in Torah. His mind is encompassed by them.
Right, so like our secular example, my mind is also encompassed by the trigonometry. Beautiful sound, eh? Yeah. Nice ring.
It's the same up there as it is now.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah, it just increased, right? Right. So also my intellect is not only grasping the essence of the Ein Sof in learning Torah, but the Ein Sof the essence of the Ein Sof is grasping my intellect. So the unity is coming not just one way, but from both directions. והוא ייחוד נפלא שאין ייחוד כמוהו ולא כערכו נמצא כלל בגשמיות.
Now this is the most wonderful unity. In the physical realm, there's no unity similar or parallel to it. Example, two things as disproportionate as human intellect and Torah, God's intellect.
להיות לאחדים ומיוחדים ממש מכל צד ופינה.
That they should actually become one in the knowledge from every side and hope.
Now I did a road trip because I want to get the Steinsaltz back. There's a quote I want to share. Oh, it's over there. Lost track of it. So on the one hand, we say this is an incredible unity because nowhere else in the universe do two such disparate things come together so beautifully. Right? There's my puny little IQ and intellect, and then there's the Ein Sof, which is absolute infinite, compressed even to become intellect, right? Even to say that it's intellect is already limiting it. But talking about intellect, it's infinite intellect that with one thought saw all of existence, every single detail, every possible nuance, right? Every spiritual world, every physical possibility, all in one thought. That's the intellect that we're talking about, absolute infinite intellect. And that these two, the most opposite things in existence, can have such a unity. It's a beautiful thing. It's
This is killing me. I was going to wait till the end to ask you this, but it's just, I can't hold it.
okay.
So at the beginning you said that there's two mitzvahs that count as,
General.
okay, the sukkah and the mikvah. Why not the Torah?
Because what I'm doing now, I'm learning with my mind. Yeah, Torah is also a general mitzvah. Torah counts as all mitzvahs. There's many that we say that about,
Yeah.
right?
Because that's what you're saying, it's all one.
Yeah, but I'm saying in the context of there's two mitzvahs that you do with your whole being when you're doing them. When I'm learning Torah, I'm sitting still. I'm not using my feet,
Okay.
right? I'm using my mouth, using my mind, but Torah is encompassing mitzvah for other reasons, right? It includes all the other mitzvot, obviously, because it leads to them, etc. But from the perspective of special mitzvahs that include your entire physical being all at one, most mitzvahs I'm doing with my hand, I'm doing with my mouth, I'm doing with my feet, right? I'm doing with my eyes, by not looking at this, whatever it is. With a sukkah, it's all of me, and effortlessly, right? I just have to be sitting there, and my whole being is doing a mitzvah. That's all. So here we're talking about the unity of us and the Ein Sof. And on the one hand, there's nowhere else in the universe by Kabbalah where two such opposite things can experience that kind of unity. There's another aspect that Steinsaltz brings up. It's interesting, I think, for people who are spiritual seekers because, as a bit of a tangent, Eastern traditions have long recognized that we're dealing with images here, right? We're so many people in a room, and we think we're looking at each other sitting in the room, and I'm seeing you and you're seeing me. But if you look at the physical reality, there's a light coming to my eye, so I'm not seeing you, I'm seeing the light bouncing off of you. That's landing on a retina, so now I'm looking at an image on my retina, I'm not looking at you at all, right? And then that's being translated into the language of the nervous system and go through nerves, so now I'm just looking at a nervous impulse. And finally, it gets to my, the visual cortex, and a sort of image forms there, which is really a manufactured image of the two different images that come in that are upside down, etc. And then I'm looking at an image in my visual cortex. So if I were to point to where I'm seeing you, I shouldn't point there, I should point here. I'm just looking at an image in my mind. That's all of us are doing. And Eastern traditions say, oh, you can't be caught up in the images, right? Because you're not seeing the actual thing. If you want to encounter the flower, don't look at that thing out there you're looking at. It's just an image here, right? Sit in a state of stillness, have total quiet in your mind, let no thought happen, and eventually you'll drift away from the images and you'll encounter a higher reality. And you do encounter something. It's a more spiritual reality. There's no question. Many people have experienced it. Here, Judaism says, no. You don't have to drift away from the physical world. In fact, the physical world is key to what you're here for, so don't drift away from the physical world. But yes, you're not looking at it correctly. You have a distorted view of the physical world, no question. Right? So Judaism agrees we're looking at images, but it says, you don't want to go away from those images. You want to actually embrace the physical world and stay with it. So how do we now encounter something truly? How do we actually encounter what Eastern traditions put out there as the reality, the higher reality of the flower, or my family member, or the mountain, or whatever? And this is the beauty of this moment in the Tanya, is that it brings up this unity with the Torah, which allows us to see everything in a different way. And let me read from Steinsaltz. Although this is true that you can be united with another topic, like if I'm studying trigonometry, I'm united with the trigonometry and it's surrounding me as well. So why is it so beautiful in Torah as opposed to in trigonometry or geography or another language, right? You experience the same unity with any secular study. The wonderful union, like which there is none other, contains a uniqueness that one achieves through the comprehension of Torah. Aside from the obvious difference in what the mind is uniting with, the divine wisdom as opposed to human understanding, the very nature of the union itself is more wonderful in Torah than in other disciplines. When a person understands some other subject, he unites with the idea of the subject, but not the subject itself. For instance, when she studies the motion of the stars, her mind unites with the concept of the moving stars and not with the movement of the stars itself. And so this is the problem Eastern religions put out. Well, you think you've learned about the world, you've learned about your image of the world. Right? You think you've learned about love, you have some image of love. You think you've learned about life, it's your image of life. You're just projecting yourself onto everything, and all you're encountering is your own ego and your own images. You got to get away from that, right? So how does Torah overcome that? Torah, however, is not merely the understanding of a certain reality, but the source of the realities it explains. In the words of our sages, God looked into the Torah and created the world. So when a mind unites with the Torah, it is one not only with the understanding of something, but also with the thing itself, because Torah is the essence of the thing's very existence. It's crazy esoteric, right? There's the tradition that says when God wanted to create the world, God looked into the Torah and created the world. So it's not like there was a world, and God said, oh, now that I have a world, let me create the Torah, and I'm going to come down at this point in history, I'm going to introduce it to them. It wasn't like that. First, God said, Torah, right? Why? We don't know, right? Could have been something else, but God said Torah. And then, if I'm going to have Torah, I have to have Jews. If I'm going to have Jews, I have to have a world. And if the Jews are going to have mitzvahs, the world has to have stuff. And so if you were writing a book, as we said, and that book was about a romance between a girl and a boy, in this fictional book, you just create a whole world, and the whole reason for the world is so that girl and that boy could meet. Right? Now, if I'm another country in that world with my own problems, and I don't know anything about this girl and boy, is that fair to me? That my whole world was created so that this girl and boy could meet that I don't even know about? No, it's not fair. But does it matter to the author? No. I'm writing a romance. So I'm going to create the whole world, and fine, it's not fair, right? Is it rational that all these other beings in your world you've created are created just for this one romance? It's completely irrational. Like, try and explain it to the billions of people in the world you've written that you created them just for this little, some small town and a boy and a girl finally meet. Right? It's not rational. Same thing with how Kabbalah sees the world. God said, I want a Torah. Now I need Jews to give it to. Now I need a world for them to be in. Now I need mitzvahs to happen. And by looking into the Torah, that was the source of the whole world. You give me this, I've gone too far for you now. In what way?
In what way?
Yeah.
You're basically saying that God looked at the Jews and said, I'm going to have Torah and give it to these people, and I really don't care about anybody else. I mean, and to me, that's horrible.
Okay. Sorry, my metaphor goes too far. When I'm talking about, because the difference is, in my metaphor, I'm an author, and I really don't care about the rest of people in the world, because I have limited compassion and attention, right? So I'm writing it about the characters. However, in this world, where the author is the Ein Sof, the author has unlimited compassion, and obviously does care about every creature and pay attention. So I apologize. Yeah, my metaphor hit a delicate spot, and obviously it falls apart at that point, because I'm limited in my attention. Right? But the Ein Sof has unlimited attention and unlimited connection to every created being, and so obviously that perceived disdain for other parts of creation, that's not really part of what we're learning here. Yeah. So sorry if I went astray there for you.
At least you caught that you're upset.
Yeah, but for us, on the positive end, yeah, if we're going to take this very crazy frame of reference, right, this very kabbalistic frame of reference, And if we're going to actually insert that and experience it, from our perspective, if I'm learning about rain and about the difference between rain and dew and how rain comes down because of our merits and dew comes no matter what, and it's compared to this in the Torah and this in the Torah, Kabbalah says I'm actually learning about the source of that physical rain. And as opposed to any other way of learning about it, where I'm just dealing with an image, and I'm looking at the image of the rain that's actually in my brain, here I've leapt above all that, and I can encounter the essence, the source of that rain. Yeah, to my mind, I'm still studying physical stuff. I'm studying about, forests. I'm studying about stars. I'm studying about the sun and the moon and people. But we've actually now found a way to move beyond just dealing with images, and we're dealing with the spiritual source of the whole universe. So that's our pathway, right? We don't like to drift away from the physical and live life just in the spiritual and dissolve the illusion. We do recognize that we're looking at the world in a distorted way, and our pathway of actually leaping above that and encountering the essence is just giving a coin in a tzedakah box, right? Learning some Torah, or saying the Shema with our kids. And when we do that, in every way, our mind is encountering the essence of the Ein Sof. It's enwrapping us, and it counts both as garments of the soul and as bread of the soul, because we're still doing it with our physical body, but we're also ingesting it. Okay, last few minutes, let's just go to the end of this page. V'zot mala yitera gdola v'nifla le'en ketz asher b'mitzvat yediyat HaTorah v'hasagata. This is, I forgot who we're at. Oh.
Mary Jane just read.
Myself? Oh, I went away for a moment, sorry.
Oh, you already read. You already read.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
This is the distinctive, infinitely great and wonderful superiority of the mitzvah of knowing and comprehending.
So he's reviewing what we discussed. Al kol mitzvot ma'asiyot v'afilu al mitzvot ha'tliyot b'dibur v'afilu al mitzvot Talmud Torah she-b'dibur.
Overall, the mitzvot involving action, and even over those performed through speech. Indeed, even over the mitzvah of oral Torah study.
Right, so we can learn Torah orally and just say it, even if I don't understand it. That actually is a physical mitzvah, right? I mean, it's missing a lot, but it's still a physical mitzvah. For someone to just recite psalms that not know what they mean, that's a mitzvah. However, there's an advantage of actually learning it, comprehending it, and understanding it that's there in addition to the physical mitzvah aspect. Ki al yedei kol mitzvot shebedibur maseh HaKadosh Baruch Hu malbish et hanefesh makifa or Hashem merosha ve'ad ragla.
Or through all the mitzvot performed in action and speech, God clothes the soul and envelops it with his light from head to foot. That is, from its outer soul to its soul.
So that's chapter 4. When my 3 garments of the soul are doing mitzvahs, now my divine soul is being clothed in the actual will of the Ein Sof, right? Ratzon of the Ein Sof. It's a kabbalistic actual sphere, a part of Keter, and I'm being clothed in it. I'm being surrounded with it. Uvidiyat HaTorah milvad sheha sechel milubash b'chochmat Hashem hinei gam chochmat Hashem b'kirbo.
Through his intellect's comprehending.
While in the case.
I'm sorry. While in the case of the knowledge of Torah, apart from the intellect being clothed in, that is, enveloped by, divine wisdom, the divine wisdom is also within him, so that he envelops it.
Right, so not only am I being enveloped as in the mitzvahs, I'm being surrounded by this light, I'm also taking it within me. I'm ingesting it. And as Shais Taub says, this chapter is all about you are what you eat. Right? You are what you eat. The mitzvahs that I do, they surround me. That light is there for me in Gan Eden. But the Torah that I learn, that actually becomes me. It changes my perspective. And that is, from a heavenly perspective, that's actually the bread, the food of my soul when it's in heaven. Yeah, so let's pick up there next time. I hope everybody has a beautiful Sukkot. And thank you for this learning. It's a great time to be learning.
Dinner?
Yes. Oh, you're welcome.
came in a little late.